Welcome to Rucks, Moors and Oval Balls. We're back. That's right. It's your fans' favourite rugby podcast brought to you by your fans' favourite rugby podcast hosts. It's me, Dave, joined as ever by a very poorly but an incredibly devout and loyal co-host in Rory. Rory, say hello to the listener.
Hello, David. Hello, listener. Yes, I'm a bit under the weather this evening. I'm also fighting several technical issues as well as my physical issues. So apologies in advance if this is not our stellar episode, but we are going to soldier on because I'm a brave boy.
He's a brave old boy, and we will soldier on. And, you know, we'd like to think the listener knows what our standards are. So, you know, if it falls short of those standards, they'll be fine with it because it's not going to be that below what our normal standards are anyway, Rory, really, is it?
No, absolutely.
Well, ignoring the obvious about your poor health, how are you otherwise? Did you have a nice weekend, you know, despite the obvious?
No game for the Lions this weekend. An agonising loss for the first team. 25-22 away at Sudbury. So that's disappointing. That's put us right in a relegation battle this season.
Oh, no.
And on top of that, you know, results didn't exactly go our way in the Six Nations. So, you know, I would say I'm a little downbeat about rugby this week, David.
Oh, dear. Well, hopefully not so downbeat that you're going to struggle to talk about rugby for an hour because that's what we're here to do. I'm sure you will manage. So, this week, we are going to go straight into bread and butter, talk about the three Six Nations games that took place this weekend, round 4. We considered doing some bits around the Prem and some of the news things, but we're going to wait till we've got more meat on the bones so we can really do probably quite a lengthy subject and conversation on that. But along with Six Nations going on, there's just not enough time in the podcast world to do it all. So we're going to save that one for another day. But we're just going to go straight in and hopefully give Rory a nice early night's sleep. And we'll go straight in. First game up of the weekend, the Friday night kickoff, Rory, Ireland up against Wales.
Yeah.
What did you make of that game?
I've got to say I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I thought it was incredibly competitive.
Yeah.
You know, there have been signs in the last couple of weeks that Wales are improving pretty rapidly under Steve Tandy. You know, some of the deficiencies around just top-end physicality is still there.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do without significant change of playing personnel. But in terms of their commitment to the cause, the way they're going through phases, the angles they're creating, the space they're creating, I think they have come on absolute leaps and bounds since where they were in the first round of this tournament. And if we're honest, I think we're unlucky not to come away with at least a point out of this game.
Yeah.
But that being said, in the end, classed overall by an Ireland side that, well, it's shut us up for starters.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. I think, like, as neutral as you can be in the Six Nations watching this, I'd say the standard of attacking play from both sides was a little bit wanting, I'd say. You could argue that was as a result of two very determined defences. But there was an awful lot of one-out runners and not a lot of creativity on display. But one thing you cannot take away from this game was, as you say, the commitment to the cause, the defence, particularly by Wales. You just look at the tackle numbers and it is absolutely incredible. I think is Alex Mann who had 32 tackles or something like that, which is you know, heroic. And I considering it's something we have been critical of about Wales in the not too recent past, about that commitment to the cause and about being able to emotionally prepare themselves for a game and physically stand toe-to-toe with their opponent, I think those question marks have been answered quite overwhelmingly.
Yeah, look, I think when you compare this game to the first round against England, and you just compare the sheer ferocity of the collisions, the likes of Alex Mann have absolutely stepped up to the level. I think some good changes in personnel, particularly in the forwards. I think starting Rhys Carre, bringing back Thomas Francis, good changes. I think going with a pretty big back row of Mann, Botham and Wainwright, no disrespect to McLeod, but ultimately I think physically not quite at the level for Test match rugby. And then bringing in the likes of Joe Hawkins into the back line to offer some real bite and go forward.
Yeah,
it's absolutely transformative. And it just shows at its absolute core, rugby can be quite a simple calculation of physics. And, Wales are now starting to rebalance the scales, which is, a great sign for them. And I think, Ireland maybe not lighting up the tournament with the most dazzling attacking play compared to, say, Scotland and France, but feel like they've come back to their effective, drilled, committed selves.
That's fair.
They'll grind you down and then they'll find the opportunity.
Yes, that relentlessness that I think in week one, I think I said that it felt like they'd lost that relentless feeling, like it was a wave of green that you just couldn't stop. Certainly feels like that's certainly come back. And I think we've started to see the best of some players like Caelan Doris, who I think's not been at his best. He looks like a man on a mission. I also think for Ireland, a lot of their change of fortunes is the fact Stuart McCloskey, I think, has been probably their player of the tournament so far in kind of giving them a real ball-carrying option in the midfield. That
He's an absolute presence, isn't he? I mean, he is the size of any decent number 8 out there, but with, as we saw against England, proper bit of toe.
Yeah.
And he, like a lot of Irish backs at the top end, just picks intelligent lines. He picks soft shoulders and he gets go forward. And when you've got the likes of Gibson-Park feeding off that, finding space when you get go forward in the back line is not difficult. And then on top of that, they've still got the ability for the kind of interplay you often see from the likes of Doris, Tagburn. I think Timoni looks like a player who belongs at this level.
Yeah.
Van der Fleer on the bench, McCarthy on the bench. It's actually all of a sudden the question marks about Irish depth are gone. I think there's still some question marks there, but they've brought some players up to a level in this tournament that makes it feel like they're bridging that gap.
Yeah, I still think there's big question marks around their depth, because I think when Gibson-Park's not on that pitch, Ireland look very different. And we saw that at the start of this tournament. And obviously, I think it's more or less confirmed that he's leaving the province at the end of this season. I think the likes of James Lowe, days are numbered. Van der Fleer's not getting any younger. So I still have those question marks around their depth, but I think you're quite right to point out the likes of Timoni, who's come in, looks like he's ready to play at this level. Alakoon, who's come in and it's just made you wonder why they've not been picking him sooner.
One against England, obviously one in this game, that really just showcased the sheer physicality of him. I thought, a player of that ability, speed, skills and size at the back, it's a rare thing.
Well, and then you say that, and then they got Jacob Stockdale, who's coming back into form, who's also a very large, fast...
who I feel like I haven't seen play for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, I think he's just been in the doldrums for 3 years, just really struggling for form, and then he's just been given the chance again, and he's taken it. Like he got that first try, which I think was made, I think that was the side of McCloskey's game that is often underrated. I think it was a really nice little offload that he did.
He's got a very good set of hands on him.
Yeah, so a bit of an all-round player. So Ireland, as critical as we were at the start of the tournament, I think they're really starting to show us up as well. I think one thing this tournament's done for us, Rory, it showed how wrong we can be.
Oh yeah, God, yeah. For God's sake, don't listen to us. We've been wrong at nearly every turn, and I think you have to really tip your hat to Andy Farrell, because after obviously the France game, but even the Italy game, if we're being honest, direction of travel was not positive for this Irish side. The ability to change the kind of emotional temperament of the team for the England game, you can make the argument that an Irish team up for an England game shouldn't be the toughest job in coaching, but the change week to week was massive, and they maintaining that level with a fallow week in between. It's a real masterclass in coaching from Farrell.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the way Wales came out in this game, that had huge potential for it to be a real banana skin for them, because I think Wales had got that fellow week right, obviously, because they were definitely up for this game. They brought plenty of questions that Ireland were able to answer. And I think Ireland at the start of the tournament may not have been able to do so. So obviously there's definitely been improvement, and I think something that we may wish to address in the final fixture of this game, but it seems like most nations have definitely been on the up this tournament. Including both Ireland and Wales, but maybe not all nations have had that same fortune.
No, well, I'm sure we'll have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it would not be right if we didn't give a brief mention to Wales's
I'm surprised this isn't the whole pod.
Yeah, Wales's new winger, Rhys Carre, who was able to. I know we were just seeing the praises of. I think it was Balakoon who was struggling to keep up with him, but it was just what a moment! What a moment!
I have watched every edit of this on Instagram, and do you know what I love? I mean, there's so much to love. A wild prop in free open pastures. What's not to love to start with? The toe he showed to run it in from that far out, but the sheer joy on his face when he realizes he's going to make it. If you watch it, as soon as you can see the moment of realization, and the size of the grin on the man is just heartwarming. It's the things fat men dream of, David.
It's the things fat man dream of. It doesn't come enough in the life of the fat man on the rugby pitch. A chance to do a 30-metre run in where you actually gassed a load of backs. It's what dreams are made of. Like that's the front cover of his autobiography sorted. That's his.
Oh God!
That is
every
LinkedIn,
after dinner speech you'll ever do.
Yeah, his LinkedIn profile picture covered. Every after dinner speech. He won't need to pay for a bill again anytime he goes out for a meal in Cardiff, I imagine. And he's got that for life. And as a fellow prop, I'm envious. I'm envious of the amount of kudos that man has now. Just amongst a pantheon of legends.
Yeah, but he's undroppable. That sits up there with. Do you remember Gethin Jenkins one against? I think it was Namibia.
Yes.
Maybe the 2011 World Cup. Something like that.
Yeah.
And he ran one in from 35, 40 metres out. But to do it against a tier 1 nation, I mean, it's no mean feat. It's a genuine great bit of skill, huge acceleration, and that smile on his face.
It was everything. It was absolutely everything.
Heartwarming.
And you put that into perspective. All of a sudden, Wales, they've got Rhys Carre, who, let's face it, has had a bit of trouble with international selection in the past. Like he wasn't called up to the World Cup squad because of his conditioning or commitment or something was being called up by the coaches at the time. But they've also got Nicky Smith to cover for them. And all of a sudden, Wales, at least in the propping department, not looking too bad.
Well, I would say they're struggling in the lock position to fill it with someone as sort of talismanic as Alan Wynne-Jones. Fair enough, you would.
Yeah,
but they haven't got a massive lock at the moment. I would say a real bruiser. So they could do one of those. I mean, Jake Ball probably would have fitted into that, but bar injury. But in the back row, you've got a Nugget 6, you've got a Rangy 7, you've got an 8 that carries all day.
You've got Jack Morgan to come back.
9. Jack Morgan to come back. You've got a world-class 9. You've got a 10 with real potential. You've got a tall, strong, pretty skillful centre partnership. Joe Hawkins has filled in at 10 for Scarlets this season. Now, obviously, their season's been a bit up and down, but the fact that he can shows a skill set. I think they've got genuine options on the wing, and in Rhys Zammit, you've got someone with genuine stardust who can do something a bit different. If you harness it all, there's a team in there, and it looks like Steve Tandy's starting to get the ingredients right on it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they've had the ingredients for the recipe for a while, but the recipe's not been quite right. Maybe he's made a tweak to that recipe, and I will extend this metaphor. Maybe he's going to start getting a bit of a rise out of that cake, and
I was imagining a stew, but I don't mind a cake. That's obviously I don't mind a cake. What am I saying?
Come on now.
Of course I don't mind a cake.
Yeah, it's got a lovely rise on it. Let's see how Wales keep going, Ireland keep going. Obviously, they're both nations on the up. But ultimately, I came away from this game thinking Wales looked mighty impressive. I also came away feeling very relieved that England played them in week 1.
Well, yeah, that is absolutely true. That is absolutely something I came away from this weekend thinking.
Yeah.
And, if you told me 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'd be relieved we'd got through the Wales game unscathed. I wouldn't have believed you, but
No, but it turns out 3-4 weeks in rugby is a long old time.
it's a hell of a long time.
Hell of a long time.
Hell of a long time.
Hell of a long time. But ultimately, Ireland come away with a bonus point and leave themselves in a position where they could still win the tournament. All to play for and a lot to go. And Wales, they may not end up with the wooden spoon. Who knows? There's another team vying for that medal this year, it seems. But I think both nations can come away from that game heads held high. Certainly, the Welsh defence, something to behold. The tackle numbers across the board. There was like 5 players with over 20 tackles, maybe more. It's just ridiculous numbers. And all credit to them. And credit to Ireland for just making a well-deserved win. Like, it can't really be critical.
100%.
Very conscious.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be critical of any other nation this week because we are not in a position to be so critical of others. We'll save that for later.
are not.
We'll keep our powder dry for the next half an hour. Moving on, though, Rory, because I think this next game, there might be a few other bits to talk around, because this is quite an interesting old game. First game on the Saturday.
To say the least.
To say the least, yeah. The first game on the Saturday, Scotland up against France. A 90-point thriller, should we say?
Well, let's be frank about it. The scoreline flatters France.
Yeah. If this game ended at 60 minutes...
that's a pretty fair reflection of how this game goes.
Yeah. If anything, I think Scotland were just feeling a bit kind and wanted to give France a couple of Instagram moments.
Look, I think Scotland will come away a bit disappointed they let France get a bonus point.
Yeah.
Given the way they defended for the first 60, 65 minutes or so. But let's not concentrate on the negatives.
No. Did you see this coming,
performance
Rory?
here.
Did you see it coming?
No,
I did not see it coming at all.
No, I didn't see it coming. I thought France would rock up. I thought their pack would strangle Scotland ball and Dupont and Jalibert would shred their back line, put in the beat B, batter Sogby, Deporter, Mofana through, holes you could park a bus in. But this is another one where it's just proof that you absolutely cannot substitute physical commitment in Test match rugby. There is absolutely no substitute for it. And, again, it's a theme that we might have to touch on a bit later on. But at its absolute most basic, putting your body on the line and throwing yourself into tackles and committing to everything you do physically in a game. If you're doing that more than the team opposite you, it often doesn't matter how talented they are because physical commitment will win the day. And, I mean, the level of commitment from Scotland in this one was, off the charts. The charts. I thought, and players that in this golden age have at times probably flattered to deceive a little. But, big names when they're good, but not necessarily always performed on the biggest stage that isn't England, for being honest.
Yeah.
I thought Pierre Schoeman was titanic, just carried and carried and carried into every contact. Didn't matter if he was getting double teamed or whatever else, he just kept on going. George Turner, I thought, just controlled things at the set piece and at the maul. Obviously, got himself a good opportunity to score on which I think didn't quite get it down. I think Schoeman actually might have nicked it off him.
Yeah.
Matt Fagerson, Rory George, Jack Dempsey as a back row, just superb with the ball. I mean, Matt Fagerson is a player with all of the physical attributes, all of the talent, who has probably, if you've been hypercritical, not hit the heights consistently that he should have. I thought of this weekend he showed exactly what his ceiling is and the level he can be at.
Yeah.
And then in the back line, I mean, Ben White, sniping, pacey, great skills. Finn Russell just being Finn Russell. Huey Pilotti is proving once again what a great centre partnership they are at their absolute best. I mean, Huey Pilotti in particular, just the physicality of him is just madness.
Yeah.
And then Carl Steyn and Darcy Graham on the wings look like fucking Jason Robinson and Shane Williams.
They just tore them to shreds, didn't they? Just tore them to shreds.
Tore them to absolute shreds. I mean, made Biobira and Atasogbe, two of the best wingers on the planet in recent times, made them look ordinary at points in their defence. Carl Steyn in particular, I mean, I really hope his injury is not too serious. But I mean, his line off the back of the off the back of the line out for his second, I think it was.
Yeah.
Where he cuts through off, I think it's George Turner's offload, which it's a really nicely weighted offload.
Yes, it was.
That's
George
not
Turner.
an easy skill.
Yeah.
It's not an easy skill to make that decision because he's got players running in different angles, obviously deliberately to create this confusion, but to lift that ball perfectly so he doesn't break stride. If he breaks stride, Dupont probably gets him, but he doesn't, and he just rounds Dupont into the corner. Great finish, and he was nuggety all day. Darcy Graham, another one. Just low centre of gravity, acceleration, commitment to the cause. I loved it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have loved Scotland performances my whole life. And sometimes because they're not very good, and sometimes because they're very good but against England.
Yeah.
There are certain times you watch team and you can't help but fall in love with the perceived underdog. How we thought they'd be underdog after that performance. Putting 50 points on France is out of this world. Out of this world.
As England fans, do we take something from that we held them to fewer points than France did? No? Is that straws?
No,
grasping straws, maybe?
I think your reach might have extended your grasp there.
Yeah, maybe. On Scotland, all I say is just when you watching them in this game, I just thought the work that they put in, the work rate they put in at the breakdown, and like each and every breakdown, both sides of the ball, that is the recipe for their recent success because they secure the ball and quick ball for Ben White so efficiently. And they made life for Dupont and Jalibert so difficult by just making the France ball as slow as possible. It was a clinic on breakdown work, I think, from Scotland, because it was a real feast for the eyes for those who really enjoy a good old ruck. And I think that, for me, is what really set them out this week and really probably shook France and just made them fall completely off their game. I think in the first 40 minutes, like Dupont and Jalibert, I barely, they didn't get up to much.
Well, Dupont threw that lovely forward pass in his own dead ball line.
Yeah, it's a fantastic forward pass.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't see players of that quality rattled.
No,
I've never seen him rattled really to that extent, and he was
rattled.
He was all over the place. Jalibert, obviously gets a yellow card until the last 15 minutes. Nothing falls his way. A couple of chipped balls that bounce goes the right way, then he maybe is a bit more effective, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
He was pretty anonymous for a lot of this game. I would struggle to think of a French player that played up to their potential. Maybe Giroud.
Yeah, that was the only name that really came to mind for me, mainly because of his commitment to being in that final place for that one of their wonder tries. Then Scotland decided to give him a little bit of a moment in the spotlight. And I will say also, thank you, Scotland, for giving France that moment of the spotlight, because it just so happened that each of the try scorers were players in my fantasy team.
I had a similar. Yeah, I had a similar rescue job from France on that one,
which helped catapult me to the top of the Rucks, Balls and Oval Balls Fantasy League this week, Six Nations. So I'm very grateful for that. But Rory, from your perspective, what if you were a French fan, and we have been all tournament kind of fans from a distance of how France have been playing, does this raise question marks or challenges for them, or do they just write this one off as a one-off blip?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say at the moment, you write it off as a bad day at the office. They've got England in Paris this week. We'll get on to predictions later, but
no better opportunity to bounce back.
I mean, Le Crunch, the new shirt, Stade de France under the lights. I suspect they will bounce back. But yeah, don't listen to me. I've been wrong most of the time. I suspect they'll get one more week, but if they fail against England, then real questions will get asked. But I don't expect them to. It felt like maybe they rocked up a bit overconfident this week, but
yeah. So And are we dismissing the potential that Scotland may have shown the rest of the world France's weakness and their Achilles heel, which is stop them at kind of source and you stop them entirely? Or is it literally just a one-off? Because on other days, I'm pretty confident to say we've seen France handle that sort of pressure before. So maybe that does come down to that overconfidence.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, I actually think the rest of the world kind of knew that. If you don't give France any quick ball, they're much easier to handle. Scotland were just able to execute on the day. I mean, you know, many have tried, but only one has succeeded. You know, it's that kind of thing. And actually, at the breakdown, France have been pretty relentless, pretty beastly throughout this. And it's actually kind of been the secret of their success. How engaging they have been at the breakdown. You know, the likes of Olivon and Guillard, Jalanche, Cross have just been blasting players out there to get the quick ball. So Scotland needs to be credited for succeeding in that. I'm not sure they found the secret formula. They were able to do it on the day.
Yeah. They executed it to as kind of near perfection. And, you know, it's nice to see Finn Russell, you know, putting in a performance, something we've been critical of in the past, not really showing up, but he certainly showed that touch of class. I think Ben White probably maybe one of the few times in his career he can say he got the better of Dupont. Certainly robbed his back pocket a little bit for his own moment in the sunshine.
He did, yeah.
Ultimately, this is a story of just a monumental Scotland performance. And I can only put my finger on it.
This is one that goes down in the law for Scotland.
Is this the best this golden generation is going to achieve? Probably. I don't.
They've got one more week to disprove that.
Yeah.
Going to Dublin, where they've got an atrocious record.
They've got an atrocious record and an atrocious record against Ireland, and reliant on England to pull off a result in France.
I mean, you got a dream, you got a hope, but
I think stranger things have happened, but I'm not certain.
No, but you know, if they weren't ruining the Italy loss already, they really are now.
Yeah. Almost it does feel like, in hindsight, this was their chance. Considering this is the one title, just that performance against France, unreal. Rory, I think we're pontificating now, and we are delaying the inevitable. We could sit and talk about this Scotland-France game for a little while longer, but it's really hard to be positive about other nations because we're all too aware of what the last game of this round is. And, you know, England versus Italy, Italy versus England, out in Italy. A game that England have never lost before. A game that Italy...
Borthwick continues to accrue records as coach, doesn't he?
Borthwick is breaking new ground. And, let's just get into it. England versus Italy. On a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed are you?
12. The thing is, there's two sides to this, right? Because I can't help but be chuffed for Italy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know, we've been watching them basically since they joined this tournament. And to see where they are now compared to where they were 5, 10, 15 years ago, the work they've done to get to this level, you know, you hope that they can kick on from here and just keep developing and producing players. And, you know, I know they've got a lot of good players coming through the system. So the green shoots are well and truly there. They properly blossomed. And I thought it wasn't a snatch and grab. They were absolutely good value for this win. It almost feels cheap to
bemoan it at all,
to single out anyone. You know, Menoncello is the obvious one, who's just continues to prove what a world-class operator he is.
Purely world-class.
But I couldn't name anyone who doesn't deserve to be given their flowers for this performance.
Across the board. They're all very, very good performances. And the thing with Italy, they all turn up for that shirt. They are all committed to the cause. They all give it their all. They don't seem to be hindered by any tactical handcuffs. They don't seem to be playing without any fear. They are turning up week in, week out and delivering. And I think they come across to me like when you see a club in domestic competitions where you just sense there's a really good kind of vibe at the club. I get that from Italy as a nation.
Yeah. they look like mates.
Yeah, and they play for each
and
other.
I think they play for each other. And I think you saw it at the end in the kind of emotional outpouring of it, because it is a monkey off their back.
Yeah, it feels like it's the final chip that they needed to get marked against to say, yeah, we're at the top table now in the Six Nations. All these years where people are saying, oh, we should be swapping Italy for Georgia, we should be swapping Italy out for that question. That question ain't coming back, because
no, they have absolutely answered those critics, and I tentatively count myself as amongst them. I never wanted them straight swapped, but I did believe in a route up and down from the Six Nations.
I'm still for a relegation. Relegation promotion's a good idea. Yeah,
but let's be honest. It's, at the moment, doesn't look like it's really Italy competing in it.
No.
I don't have enough vocabulary to describe what performance that was, but I think when you look at the traditional kind of weak points in Italian teams in the recent past, because they've often had a few talented players, but they've either lacked quality in the half-backs or out-and-out gas or physicality in the back line. They just answer all those questions at the moment. I mean, there isn't a weak point to that team. And the fact that they can have someone like Pani start and play so well and not miss Capuozzo. I mean, anyone missed Capuozzo, but they genuinely looked fine.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're seeing now with Italy is because of the output of their development programs, they've now got depth, and when players come off the bench, so one of their weaknesses was that Italy could stay with you for 60 minutes, but the second their bench was unloaded, you knew you would kind of accelerate away from them. That don't happen anymore because the bench is just as good as the starters.
Fusco, Marin, and Allen in the back line all slotted in, absolutely perfectly. They haven't even just got 6 front rowers. They've, if you count the injuries they've probably got 9 or 10. They've got genuine locks. They've got options in the back row,
and they're all good ages as well. All really good ages.
Yeah. So they've been obviously a growing force in the last few years. That win in Cardiff a few years ago. You wanted to believe it was the start of something special, but there's been false dawns in the past. Well, they absolutely took it and ran with it, and then now they are fully at the top table as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think the only nation they've never beaten now is New Zealand, and I can see this Italy team doing that if given the right opportunity. I don't think they're a million miles off. Putting a result on New Zealand. I think they're now at the level where on their day they could pretty much beat almost anyone. I think for me, looking at how they've been playing this tournament, I'd put them in the same camp as Argentina. They're at a similar level, I'd say.
Yes,
which is not.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair comparison.
Yeah, and I don't mean that in any way to belittle Argentina over the last 5 years, who've been monumental. It's just pointing out that these are both nations who have developed very, very quickly and very, very well, and are now dining at the top table. Should we talk about the England performance, Rory?
I don't really want to, but I suppose so. Well, there's very few positives to taking this, aren't there? I mean, next to none. The back line misfired. They're going to stick with them for this week, which I think probably is the right call. There's only so many changes you can keep making. But the problem at the moment is they look so lost in phase play. We spoke a few weeks ago about one of the things I was really impressed with France at the time was their ability to generate quick ball around the breakdown, without sort of cramping space, without having to resort to the kick immediately. Their forwards are just very good at creating a bit of quick ball that they can just then play off. England look terrified of anything that isn't on a play, quick ball with everyone in the right place immediately.
Yeah,
they don't seem to be able to get out of their own heads of, if I'm not standing there, we can't play. We have to go to the air. And it's not even that I'm against kicking as a tactic. I'm fine with kicking as a tactic, but it's got to be an arrow in your quiver. It can't be your immediate default if things aren't in an absolute perfect situation, because that's not how Test rugby works.
Yeah. It doesn't.
And they just feel like at the moment they look terrified to play.
Well, I saw someone. I read something somewhere about they look like a team of players who have a fear of failure, riddled within them, and for me that has to come from the coaches and the camp. It's obviously being drilled into them that they need to do certain things in certain phases of the game and certain places, and if you're not doing that, it's going to be held against you. So therefore, that fear to do something that if you're, I'm not in the right place, we're not going to do that. That is exactly what it looks like. It looks like a team of players who are afraid to play, and they're going to play in the system. They don't want to get dropped, because if they do something that they're not supposed to, they'll get dropped, they'll lose their shirt, and then the next guy comes in, and then they have to, if the next guy comes in and does a better job of playing the system, then they're going to keep the shirt. And I think that's the problem. We're so, it seems, just hell-bent on playing this system, which seems to revolve around box kicking and kicking away possession in the first few phases of play almost every time, which to me, watch every other nation this round, none of them kick the ball away as early in the phases as we do. And I know there's a stat going around saying England actually don't kick the ball anywhere near as much as the other nations. Well, we probably haven't had as much possession as the other nations, and
kicking's only good if you kick well.
We're not kicking well, we're not chasing well, we're not reacting to any kick return. And like you say, like we've seen other nations, we've seen it before in the past, how the kicking game can work. I'm not a big fan of it just because I find it quite dull, the whole kicking game. And I just think it almost makes there's such an element of luck to it now, where it's not really about skill. It's just about being able to get your hand up and being in the right position.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, but not at the expense of playing when it's on, and not at the expense of trying any other tactic if it's not working. At the moment, to me, they look like a team terrified of the Monday morning video session.
Yeah, they don't want to be pinged out for not doing what they've been asked to do. That's what it feels like. And what's the point of picking Tommy Freeman at 13 if you're not going to at least try and run through some phases and come up with some plays where you're going to have him as a strike runner? Like, if you're going to pick him at 13 just so he's a little bit closer to the 9 on box kicks, that's not how England should be playing.
But it's not like they weren't capable of doing that.
Oh, they're more than capable of doing it.
We've seen them do it.
What
I don't understand is why in this tournament they seem incapable of doing it. You know, we can be revisionist about, you know, every game they won last season, but, you know, they beat Argentina 3 times, they beat France, they beat Scotland, they beat New Zealand, they beat Australia.
I just think that England on their tour to Argentina, that was some of the best rugby I'd watched England play in a long, long time. And that involved a well-executed kicking game. But I think the reason it worked so well is because that wasn't what it revolved around. It wasn't the only thing we did. But it just seems to be the only thing England are doing at the moment is in the first 2 phases is you give the ball to a slowly ambling prop or lock. They lose a couple of meters, and then we kick the ball away, hope the winger... is able that's the game plan.
I think that is the big problem. That is the big problem at the moment, is that there's no intent in the carries, and there's no deception, there's no tips, apart from Ben Earl, who is basically the only player in this squad I'm going to give somewhat of a pass to for his efforts in this tournament. Everyone else has to be scrutinised for not applying, I would say, you know, relatively basic skill sets at the line. You know, you are a test match player. If you can't move the ball at the line as a forward pod, you're not good enough for test match rugby. You know, if as a back you can't form a pullback and take him around, and you know, I don't like to do this to Saki, who's one of my favourite players in England, and
I still think he's the future of an England centre partnership.
I still think he's the option. That, you know, you could just see they weren't clicking.
Yeah.
But that's not a good excuse for being unable to perform that set of skill. And it's a really pervasive problem in English rugby that I noticed with the under-20s, particularly in the Ireland game, the under-20s.
Yeah, this tournament in particular.
Yeah, and I've seen it at Prem level, and you're really seeing it with the senior men's at the moment, where if everything isn't choreographed and executed perfectly, players don't seem to have the skill sets to even improvise a slightly different pass when it needs to be. I mean, just seems that so few players seem able to think on their feet in the game, and that is a culture and coaching thing, top to bottom, from English rugby. And you know, we shouldn't get into dissecting the whole, you know, youth to test journey of English rugby, but it's a problem we've seen for some years, if we're being honest.
Yeah,
and
certainly.
I thought we were getting out of it.
Yeah, certainly in the backs, like even at under 20s, like the backs have always felt quite regimented, and then like the dominance from England age level has always been from the pack.
Yeah.
I'm starting to have really big concerns about English rugby, which I know probably sounds very hypocritical because I've been one of the biggest bastions of hope for English rugby, but I've been reflecting, and I think, are we walking into a problem of our own making where, like, system-wise in English rugby, and I think the national team is kind of reflecting this a little bit, props and hookers, we want them to be as mobile and ball-playing as possible. Our locks, we want them to be hybrid sixes and back rowers, so we don't want them to be big and bulky, we want them to be athletic and lean. And our back rowers, we want them to be hybrid and able to operate in the centres. Yet we're playing a style of rugby that relies on quite at least stable and dominant set piece. So are we creating a rod for our own back by creating generations of players who are in this mould that are going to come up against sides where they're not doing this, and we're going to get beaten up at the breakdown, which we've been at every single game in this tournament. We're not going to be able to impose too much dominance at much of the set piece. I'd say thank God we've got the likes of Ellis Genge around still, because I think that's what's helping us. We've got a few physical freaks that are able to do a bit of everything, but there's every chance down the line that may not be the case. I'm just worried, are we creating a problem for ourselves by having this focus on these hybrid players? And when you look at the likes of Ireland, France, Scotland, they're not doing that. They are still churning out some big beastie players. Are we going to...
I would challenge that slightly. I think there are lots of players doing that France in particular. If you look at Olivon, Guillard, Gigoux, these are all pretty hybrid players.
But they've then got a Miafu to bring off the bench when that's not working.
Well, this is where your argument, I think, really has bite, in that we only seem to be picking hybrid players, and we're not picking hyper specialized single track players at all. So, and when you've lost, probably the only one we really had was Tom Willis. Probably our only hyper specialised. He's an 8. He's only an 8. He can only be an 8. He's an 8.
Yeah.
That was probably our only one last year, and obviously we've lost him. If you look across the French leagues, obviously you've got Jack Willis, Lewis Ludlam. That seems like a back row that would deal with the physicality problems we're having at the moment.
Well, just the other, the RFU have made this point about how they've put all these things at Steve Borthwick's disposal, these contracts with the clubs, these new contracts. They're doing absolutely everything in their power to give Steve Borthwick, or whoever England coach is, or maybe in the future, the recipe for success. And yet, I still think in the back of my mind, if we could pick Ludlam, Jack Willis and Tom Willis in the back row, that's probably a better way for giving us a bit more success, I reckon.
Probably, I think you're probably right. And the reality is, I'm not convinced of Borthwick out yet.
No.
But what I will say to your point is, it's all well and good giving him all the ingredients to the perfect recipe, but if the cook's no good, you're still not going to get much out of it. Ultimately, you can give Steve Borthwick all the tools, but there's got to be questions asked, realistically. Is he moving in the right direction? And recency bias says no. Broader trend says maybe. The trend over the course of his whole tenure, it's a pretty mixed picture. And the stat that I saw today, and your stat man, Dave, so you may well have seen it and digested it yourself. Across this tournament, England have conceded the least entries into their 22 and gained the most, but they have the worst points average for entries into the red zone and the worst points on both sides of the ball, either conceding or scoring.
Yes.
Now, what I would say to that stat, and this is where your stats and my eye test are going to create two different pictures, really, because from a stat perspective, you could easily make the argument that tactically
it's working.
They're doing something absolutely right.
Yeah.
Something's going right because you're not conceding opportunities and you're making lots. You're not converting them and you're letting all those opportunities that the team gets score. But there is something going right there that you can work off. The eye test is telling me something completely different. I don't know whether it's the quality of entries. Maybe it's, a lot seem to come off, can we win a pen at the scrum and kick it into the 22? Thank God we got a scrum.
Yeah.
If we didn't have a scrum this tournament, we'd be buggered. But the lack of execution is, abysmal, really. There's no two ways about it. It's appalling.
That's the big concern for me. Do we have to think... Is Lee Blackett being given enough time on the training pitch to actually
Well,
coach?
this is the question for me. Is Lee Blackett being sidelined? Is he not getting his ideas across? Is it? Oh, did we get Lee Blackett completely wrong?
Well,
Where's the disconnect here? Because the chat about Lee Blackett was the quality of his ability to get the players emotionally right, but also to get a tune out of them in an attacking sense, and something isn't working.
well, for me, I think you just have to look at Bath this season. When they had Lee Blackett, looked dangerous ball in hand. The second Lee Blackett's gone off to England, they've looked a little bit like England. They've been probably a lot more effective at it than England have been, so it's not been too bad for them. But I think that's the argument to say that Lee Blackett's definitely got the ideas and is a good enough coach because he's done it at the top level domestically, and we saw what he could do in Argentina. So is he not being given enough time on the training pitch because they're too busy practicing their kicking high balls and catching it, practicing... Well, I don't know what they're practicing, but are they spending too much time focusing on the stuff that is really not working and they're trying to get that right rather than actually, well, let's try something different and let's unleash Lee Blackett's little playbook that he's probably got hidden away somewhere?
It looks like sunk cost fallacy at this point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just looks like they're doubling down on a game plan they're determined can come good, rather than stepping away, seeing the wood for the trees and going, actually, we need to change tact a little bit here. I also think there are real questions personnel-wise in the forwards because we're not getting go forward. We're not getting...
I'm so frustrated.
We're not getting impact.
So frustrated they've not just rolled dice this week. I know that you're not a fan of just rolling a dice and throwing baby out of the bathwater and all that sort of stuff, but I think ultimately the back row, the balance isn't right. I know Ben Earl has been absolutely nothing but committed and nothing but impressive this tournament. But for me, I think we need to start thinking about a Greg Fizzolau or even an Alfie Barbary. We need someone a bit different.
See, he's off to Sarries. That's always a good way to get yourself picked.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Look, I'd be happy to put Ben Earl at 7 at the moment. I think not bringing Cunningham South on to the last 5 minutes. I know there was the yellow cards, and that was a whole other issue. The discipline issue is mental.
Oh yeah, do we touch on that?
But we should touch on it. But it could just to stick with personnel for the moment, just to throw some names out at you that and I don't know if these are the right names, right? These are just names that came to my head, and I was thinking, how does this thing go forward? Cunningham South's the obvious one. Tom Pearson, Ted Hill, Barbary. I'm not saying, it's how you drop in Underhill, how you drop in Pepper, how you drop in Curries. I understand that these are players that have got a lot of kudos in the bank. But this theory of having 3 fetchers when we're not winning it, apart from a Toge at the weekend, we've hardly won a turnover all season, all tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not getting the go forward in attack. I know Pepper carried reasonably well in this one, but by and large, it hasn't really worked this tournament. They're not covering the ground the way that they should, given the theory, and they're not slowing up opposition ball. It's not working. This idea of just having fetchers, it was a nice theory and it worked for a bit last season or last year, but this pack is crying out for some bite.
Who would be a really good call-up? And I know it may not work, but they need to look at maybe someone like Miles Reed. If you want bite, if you want commitment, you want someone to put their body on the line, you can carry and would be an absolute pest at the breakdown. That's what Miles Reed does week in, week out at Bath.
Yeah.
Players, all these players that we are, it's just really what makes us so critical is we watch them week in, week out and how good they are.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because we are huge kind of proponents, singers of praise about Prem Rugby. But we can't sit here and try and say Prem Rugby's the best league in the world when the best of the best in the England squad are putting on this display.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's a real question about whether Prem Rugby is providing the quality of competition at the moment. We should probably touch on the discipline issues. I mean, across the whole tournament, It's been abysmal.
It's been awful, yeah.
Toge, on the back of what up to that point had been his best game by some distance in the tournament.
Yeah, despite shouting at Finn Smith like a naughty little schoolboy.
Well, I sympathise with him there. As a fellow captain, when you're getting challenged like that, it is frustrating. You're like, no, I've gone with the decision. We're going with it. Just back the decision and let's play. Or let's back the decision. Let's just do what we've decided. I think a bit of naivety from Finn Smith there.
Same approach Borthwick seems to have for the players as well. Nope, don't want to hear your ideas. Do what I say.
Well, there's hearing ideas, and then after the decision's been made, question. I mean, I understand how that happened. I'm not saying he should have reacted that way. That is a reaction of real frustration. I suspect through multiple different things, but I can understand why he lost his temper at that moment. But that being said, you can't play that card and then not let cool heads prevail later on and get yourself sent off through something daft and preventable. Yeah. Sam Underhill is one of the best, most physical tacklers I've ever seen in an England shirt because he doesn't do things like that. He doesn't go for the head. He's always low. He is like he's lower than a snake's belly when he tackles.
Yeah. And that's why he's so good.
It's why he's so good. It's his big super strength, and for him to do something like that at that time just undermined the whole trajectory of the game. And ultimately, those two cards were probably ultimately what cost England. Obviously, letting Italy start racking up points, get themselves back in within a score.
Yeah,
and then another bit of magic from Menoncello. They finished it off.
At that point, it felt like it was. Well,
it felt like it was going that way.
It was going that way. Like momentum was just all with Italy, and it was just felt like it was a matter of when, not if. And that is what happened. I've seen a few things like calling out like the work rate of like Roebuck on the wing, on the chase back, and things like that. Again, not wanting to single out any players because I feel like the work rate again questionable across the team.
Yeah. I agree. Completely agree.
I'm still harking back to it just doesn't feel something's right in camp. This isn't the same England we were watching 12 months ago, 6 months ago. I can't put my finger on it. It doesn't feel right. Is it rotten to the core? I hope not. I worry that we're just going to keep sticking to this current plan that is in place and not think. I suppose because Bill Sweeney's come out and said giving the back in to Borthwick and all that. What's it going to take to change anything? Do we have to go to this Nations Championship and get stuffed 60-0 by South Africa and lose to Fiji? Is that what it's going to take to impose any changes? Because at the moment we're just walking to more.
I think at the moment we look like we're sleepwalking into a fundamentally intractable problem. So I say hopefully they can turn it around this week, but I am not confident.
I don't know, it would be awfully typical of England to go out there and somehow sneak a win, which will basically paper over all the cracks. It probably won't be a beautiful performance, but they'll probably go
papering over cracks, so.
And it'll give Borthwick everything he needs to kind of say, I'm your man till 2027 World Cup because I went and beat France in La Crunch in Paris. But I also know that is very, very unlikely to happen based on what we've seen so far. How much more do we dig into this England performance? Obviously, there was 9 changes made in advance.
Yeah.
And it's something that we'd asked Borthwick to do, was to roll the dice and try something new. Did any of the changes work, in your opinion? Finn Smith in for Ford, Saki in at 12, Murley and Roebuck back on the wings, Freeman moved back into centre. Did any of that work?
Murley and Roebuck did okay at times. I thought Ben Spencer was all right at 10 at 9. Sorry, by a nudge without being spectacular and getting the team moving. But I thought he was all right there. Pepper, not bad. Alex Cole's probably had one of the better performances on.
Yeah, he quietly had an okay game, didn't he? Relative to
obviously the assist is the big thing, but ultimately, no, I don't think it massively worked. But I think they derailed their own plan by going with 13 men.
Yeah, that's true. And obviously, we've seen the team that's out for next week, where the only change is Chesham coming in at 6, replacing Underhill, Pepper going to 7, Earl at 8.
Doesn't inspire.
Not inspired. What changes would you have made? Obviously, within the bounds of the squad and kind of player availability.
Within the bounds of the squad, I'd have brought Cunningham South in at 6. I I would have been tempted. I mean, if Furbank was fit, I'd have been sorely tempted to bring Furbank in, but it looks like he's either unfit or unfancied at the moment. I'd have been tempted to put Jomo at 13 and put Freeman on the wing, probably for Roebuck. And just have an extra pair of hands out there. But, I mean, at the moment, it feels a bit rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic at the moment.
I think, yes. That feels like a very apt and appropriate metaphor for the situation. Does feel like we're heading towards some sort of giant iceberg of some sort. That may be the Springboks in the Nations Championship. Is there any value in debating what changes would make outside the bounds of the squad?
I think we should review it at the end of the tournament.
Yeah, let's review our options at the end of the tournament. Maybe we'll be a few surprises sprung. But I would, for one, be totally up for a complete rejig and a refresh and a rethink of how that England squad is compiled, and a bit more thought put to how we get the most out of each department in that team, so that we are in a position where we can look for specialists and look for people to really impose themselves on games. Because at the moment, it just feels like it's 15 people almost becoming anonymous every time they're on that pitch. Like there's no one standing out other than Ben Earl and kind of putting their head above the parapet. And I want to visit how that could be possible and get players to actually start doing that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we'll reconvene next week and see how much more defeated we are, Rory. Whether we've got any hair left, and if there is any hair left, how grey it may be. So yeah. Should we do a team of the week? Have you got a team of the week ready to go, Rory?
Yeah, I think I've got one to mind.
Okay. We'll do a team of the week and then we'll do some predictions for next week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for me, Lou said it's Rhys Carre.
It's got to be. The new Rhys Lightning.
And Pierre Stewart was very good. Fischetti was very good. I mean, to be fair, Ellis Genge dominated scrum time, but no, it's Rhys Carre, and I won't have any arguments.
No arguments at all from me. Who's your tight head?
I think I'm going to give it to Fagerson.
Okay, so I've had a similar thought in my mind, and I'm arguing over it. Fagerson, or is Darcy Ray not getting enough credit for laying the foundations for that Scottish scrum?
Yeah.
And kind of getting the thought into the referee's head that Scottish pack was in a good place in the scrum. Like I've seen a lot of other kind of websites and stuff like Fagerson's their player of the week, and Fagerson had a very good game. But I almost want to pick Darcy Ray just to kind of point out that he also did a really good job, considering
Let's do it.
He was an out there pick. Like no one was selecting Darcy Ray.
No one saw Darcy Ray coming.
And nor did the French front row. So that was my pick. Your hooker.
I think I'm going to go George Turner.
Yeah, so
I just felt just an all-round solid performance from him. I mean, I would have attempted my Nicotera, but to get the yellow, maybe that just edges George Turner for me.
Yeah, I was between George Turner for just was an overall good, solid game, and Dowie Lake for what was a very combative...
and he was very good.
Talismanic leadership sort of performance. But I'm happy to go George Turner. I think he probably had the best game I've seen him in a Scotland shirt for some time. Your locks, Rory.
I'm going to go with Canone.
Yep.
And I think Byrne.
Yeah, so I've gone Canone and Tag Byrne as well. I nearly put Daft Jenkins in, again for similar reasons for Dowie Lake.
Yeah.
But I think Canone and Byrne were the standouts for me this week. Various reasons, but mainly just for both being absolutely colossal for their teams in defence and carrying the ball just really effectively. Something that, it'd be nice if an England player did now and then. Your 6, Rory.
I think I'm going to go Alex Mann.
I've gone Alex Mann. I nearly went Jack Conan, who I think is basically level with Mann, but I think the 32 tackles... unreal defensive performance. He was absolutely everywhere for Wales. He embodied what that performance was about. So I went Alex Mann. I thought he was just tremendous. Your 7.
It's a straight... I think it's Rory Darge.
I've also gone Rory Darge.
Yeah, I think it's just Rory Darge, isn't it?
Yeah, as I said in the game, like when we talk about the game, Scotland's work at the breakdown in both sides of the ball, I think he embodied that and just put his body on the line defensively. Again, one of those really quite understated, like he wasn't the headline player for Scotland really coming out of that game, but I think when you watch it back, like he's one. If you watch the tape back, that's some performance.
Yeah, just everywhere.
And your number 8, Rory?
I'm going to go for the other Canone.
Lorenzo Canone.
That's the one.
Yeah, I've gone Canone as well. I nearly went Jack Dempsey for similar reasons to Darge.
Yeah, I did think Jack Dempsey, but I just thought the Italy pack was just monstrous.
Yeah. And his carrying was a big part of why they were able to just get front football and kind of put England on the back for quite frequently, even though that turns out quite an easy thing to do. Your scrum half, Rory.
Ben White.
Ben White, easy decision. Scrum half of the week. Gibson-Park, again, very solid performance from Gibson-Park. But Ben White, for me, stand out. You don't score 50 points against France with a scrum half and not get a nod like that. And for similar reasons, 10, I've gone Finn Russell. I'm assuming you've done the same.
Yeah, I did. I was tempted by Garbisi, who I thought was really good for Italy, and obviously kicked them into the game in some respects, but you can't ignore that Russell performance.
You can't. Let's go your centres.
I'm going to cheat, if that's okay. I'm going to Tuipulotu and Menoncello.
So I nearly cheated, but I went Menoncello and Brex just because I wanted there to be 1 week where we got what I think is the best centre partnership in world rugby. I wanted that to be the team.
Just
week.
Straight up Brex and Cello.
Yeah, I was going to go Tuipulotu with Menoncello, but I just thought I'm just not going to cheat this week. But
yeah,
I accept your cheat.
Came off at 50 though.
True. Fine, we'll cheat. Menoncello and Tuipulotu, because I did have Tuipulotu written down and I scribbled it out and put Brex.
And I do think Menoncello finished at outside centre. I think Marin went to inside centre. So
sold. Tuipulotu at 12, Menoncello at 13. Your wingers.
Steyn and Darcy Graham.
Yeah, very Scottish feel to my wingers too. I can't really dispute that. I don't think anyone else in the wing department stood out as much as those two.
No.
And your 15? Let me guess. Italiano?
I think it has to be Pani. I do think it has to be Pani in the end. Just dealing with that England kick in the way he did. I mean, Blair Kinghorn, I thought had a good game for Scotland, but maybe actually wasn't the standout in that back line. James Osborne, another really solid game for Ireland, but ultimately I think Pani was just one of the big differences for Italy on the day.
Yeah. I cannot agree more. And, not a single English player and not a single French player.
You wouldn't have said that at the start of the tournament, would you?
You would not have said that at the start. Well, no, you wouldn't. So, yeah, there's something for you. But let's run into our predictions for next week, Rory, because it's the final round of the Six Nations. It was a week that we were so excited for. Do you remember those days where we were saying, "Oh, this feels like it's going to be the decider for the Grand Slam"? Do you remember those days?
Yeah, good days.
Good time. Yeah, heighty, lofty, happy times. But hey, we can still be a little bit excited of what's coming our way. And let's just let me just get the right fixtures up so I'm talking the right order. Where are they? Okay. All 3 games on the Saturday. Super Saturday, Rory. We love a Super Saturday in rugby. Kicking off 2:10, Ireland at the Aviva up against Scotland. 2 teams in the ascendancy. Where
I really want
you
to
land?
back Scotland to win this. I really want to back Scotland to win this. But the record in Dublin, the response from Ireland since week 1, I just don't think I can. I think I'm going to have to back Ireland to win this one. Tight, I'm thinking something like 25-22.
Okay. I'm bucking the trend, Rory. Remember, just last weekend, Italy had never won against England. Then what happens? Scotland.
Well, they won against England.
Yeah. Well, I'm backing Scotland to break this duck, this problem they've got with playing against Ireland, and I'm going to back Scotland to come home with this one, and I'm going to predict a 32-29 final score.
Ooh, sounds like a thriller to me.
Absolute thriller. Next game. I'm actually more excited by this game than I would have been when you asked me to predict this at the start of the tournament. But Wales versus Italy at the Principality has become quite interesting.
It has. It really has. Look, Wales look ripe to pinch a victory at some point soon. I'm not sure. I don't know. Something's nagging at me saying Wales might win this, but I think I'm going to have to back Italy to have their best ever Six Nations. I think at this point, I think if they're going to beat us, at least have your best Six Nations ever.
See, that's that. So I've got a similar nagging feeling in the back of my mind. Like, is this going to be the point of Wales' ascendance that we've seen this tournament, where they get a fight, they finally get that win that's eluded them, but they are playing Italy, who I would arguably say have been consistently the best performing team, kind of performing at the level we're expecting or above through the entirety of the tournament compared to all the other nations.
Yeah, they haven't fluctuated. They've just continually churned out good performances.
They have been 8 out of 10 every week.
I think Italy sneaked this one, but I think it's tight. I think it's agonising for the Welsh, I'm afraid. I think it's going to be something like 18-14.
I think it could be heartbreak for Wales. I think you're right. It'll be close. I think Italy do it, but I think it's going to be one hell of a game, and I think this could be the game of the round, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Then what I'm expecting to not to be quite so competitive. Yes, the final game, France versus England at the start of France. Just how bad do you think it'll be?
35, England 10.
That low?
I'm expecting us to keep them down to 5 tries.
5 tries, and we'll get one.
We'll get one, and we'll get an early penalty. And we'll go, well, maybe. And then BLB will skin everyone and we'll go, oh, no.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone sit down.
Yeah, I feel you might be right. Yes, I'm not disagreeing with you there. I think France comfortable win there. And that ultimately will mean France take home the crown once more. But hey, there's always next year. So, Rory, do you want to talk any more rugby nonsense while, not feeling very well? Or are you wanting to go straight to Big Raw's final thoughts?
Forza Italia, allez les bleus, and up the Scotland!
And there we have it, folks. There's Rory's final thoughts. We be Rucks, Balls and Oval Balls, and we'll be back again next week with some more rugby nonsense. If you've enjoyed listening, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and send those carrier pigeons, because we enjoy receiving those. And we'll see you again next week. Ta-ra!
Ta-da!